and redone to look like ours.
Call to order the Siloam Springs Board of Directors meeting for August 20, 2024. Roll call.
Harold.
Here.
Allen.
Here.
Rissler. Hunt.
Here.
Wiles.
Here.
Long.
Here.
Blair.
Here.
Thank you. At this time, if you all will please stand with me, and Director Carroll will lead us in a word of prayer, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Father, tonight we have opportunity to give thanks. Thanks for beautiful weather, start to the school. Everything seems to make a little bit of a change, but you are God of transition, and we give thanks for that. Thank you for the opportunity we have to be a part of this community of Siloam Springs, to share in the quality of life that we have, and to be a blessing to those around us and our neighbors. And we give thanks for the opportunity to make wise choices and be a blessing. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. This time on our agenda, we have time for public input. And I would ask if there is anyone here that would like to address the board on any item that is not a regular agenda item. And I believe, Kathy, you want to?
My name is Kathy McEnroe Coleman, 506 South Elm Street, Siloam Springs. Madam Mayor and Board, here we are at another opportunity to soon vote for city board members to represent the people of Siloam Springs. 3 at-large positions are available to be voted upon November 5th to serve a 4-year term beginning January 2025 to December 2028. You members of the board are aware that it is both great an honor and a responsibility to serve in that position. I'm married to a past board member and can say from personal observation that the job requires much time, reading, studying, and openness to meet with citizens. When my husband, Bob Coleman, served on the board, he readily gave out his personal cell phone number to the community, encouraging people to contact him about their questions or concerns. He also opened our home for people to visit him. He was eager to hear from citizens. There were times when he did not totally agree on issues, but he voted as the majority of the people who contacted him wished if it would not cause detriment to our city. I hope that in this election, voting citizens will study the candidates and the candidates' views closely. I grew up in this wonderful town, and I had no idea that in the past election, people could have been so malicious, so eager to spread lies about the candidates, and actually write libelous statements about them. My husband, my family, and I were subject to that very nightmare. I truly hope that doesn't happen to any of the candidates in this election. I will say that people were amazed that Mr. Coleman did not retaliate by word or take legal action for the libelous statements written about our family. Choose your words carefully. Words have great power to bless or wound others. When you speak carelessly or negatively, you damage others as well as yourself. I urge each of you, for the sake of our community, to discourage and have no part in such shameful shenanigans as went on in the 2020 Board of Elections. The Siloam Springs people deserve better than that. Thank you. Madam Mayor, I have copies of the letter, if that is appropriate to give to the clerk.
Yes, you may give it to the clerk. Yes, thank you, Kathy. Is there anyone else?
Name's Larry Kennemore, 207 Western Hills Drive, Siloam Springs, Arkansas. I'm here about 2 issues tonight, and sorry, this is the first opportunity I've had since July 4th to be here. The first issue I'd like to address, I'd like to thank the city administrator, city staff, personnel for the great block party that they put on to the 4th of July. In the 11 years here in Siloam Springs, I was impressed by the city staff, police, fire, EMS, and all your departments that were there and were involved, especially the city personnel that drove the golf carts, ferrying people around from the parking lots. So kudos to the city administrator and all those people that came up with this great idea, and I hope you continue it in the future. The second issue I'm here about, as most of you know, I'm a retired paramedic, City of San Diego Fire Department, was a field training officer for him for a number of years. At my church a few weeks ago, on a Sunday morning service, we had a medical emergency. City paramedics responded, and I wanted to thank personally Paramedic Osborne, who I invited here tonight, and his crew in the face of citizens and other medical people interference with the care of this patient. Paramedic Osborne, if I'd had a camera, I should have videoed what he did. He took control of this scene and was professional in dealing with the citizens and treating the patient. I feel citizens should feel blessed that we have such a great fire department and EMS personnel that continue to save lives and know how to do their job professionally. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Osborne is here. You guys
Well, that's loud. Good evening, Board. I want to say thank you, Larry, for your kind words and recognition for everything that we just do each and every day here at the city, not just myself, but all those that are involved with our fire department, from our new guys to our senior firefighters and company officers. When I got told this morning that I was being recognized, or the fire department was being recognized, and they'd like for me to be here, I was kind of confused, didn't know what was going on. I started looking for patient reports, trying to figure out who in the world did I try to save or help in that time of need, and couldn't find it. So I was like, what's going on to warrant the need for me to stand in front of you guys? And so with that, it is an honor, and it couldn't be done without all those guys who are not here tonight that work beside me each and every day. You know, I work with some really stellar, awesome guys who are just very passionate, very good at what they do, that make it easy for me to shine in my time of need. And I'm very appreciative of the board and those at the fire department and command staff that facilitate our needs to be able to do our job. It means a lot for when we come to work and be able to help people, and it's easy for us to do so. I also travel the country a lot for some other side stuff, and I get to meet firefighters and other high-ranking officials from organizations and different communities. And every time I come back home, I'm really thankful for the level of care that we're able to provide, both as EMS and for fire for the city of Silent Springs and neighboring communities. So again, thank you all, and thank you, Larry, for everything you guys do. I appreciate you all.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
just to piggyback on that, Blake, Lieutenant Osborne does just an outstanding job, and the difference that our fire department makes to the community is amazing. You know, my story, you guys probably heard me tell it, where, you know, I was a policeman for, almost over 30 years, and my kids, I figured one of them would follow in my footsteps, right? Well, he broke his leg, I think his junior year, and then the fire department came out, and he got in the ambulance, and by the time I got to the hospital, I really believe they put him on morphine. But when I got there, he said, I figured out what I want to do. He said, I'm going to be a fireman. These guys are awesome. So they turned my child. But again, that's just the difference they can make. And I know personally the impression that they made on my family. So I really appreciate his work and all the work they do at the fire department.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. We do appreciate our public service personnel. They do a great job for our citizens, so thank you all very much. And Larry, thank you for recognizing that service. Appreciate that. So is there anyone else? If not, is there anyone that would like to address the board on an item that is on our consent agenda? There is not, so we will move on then to our consent agenda. Item A, the one and only item, regular meeting minutes for August 2nd, 2024. So I'm assuming, directors, there's Not anything we want to pull. So do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Allen.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Betsy.
I just got a text from a citizen trying to watch. The sound is really bad. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. So next is our ordinances. Ordinance 24-24, third reading, amending section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, zoning annexation election territory to A1 agriculture. Chris?
So this is just, again, this is just the final board summary for the agenda item. This was a project that came through Ben Rhodes, our senior planner. This was relative to all of the 2024 annexation by election properties. By default, as we've discussed during the previous readings, the annexation would come into the city by default as an R2 zoning. However, that was not necessarily the will of the board. The desire of the board appeared to be that they would prefer it to come in as an A1, which would align with the majority current use of the properties. The ordinance will amend the default and bring in all of these lands as A1 agricultural. Existing land uses will be grandfathers. For example, if the land is being used as commercial, it will be allowed to continue that use until there's a lapse in the current use. The Planning Commission, again, as a recap, did recommend approval of this project, or of this item. There have been no changes since the first and second reading, and staff is available for additional questions as needed. Staff
Thank you,
does
Chris.
recommend approval.
Thank you. Directors, any comments or questions at this time? There is not. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address ordinance 24-24? There being none, directors, do I have a motion to place ordinance 24-24 on its third reading, suspending the rules, reading by title only? We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hunt.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Alan?
Ordinance number 24-24, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, city zoning map, zoning from A1 agriculture, property located within the described annexation territory of the city of Siloam Springs, Arkansas.
Thank you. Directors, do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 24-24?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt. Roll call.
Wiles.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes. Motion is approved. Ordinance 24-24 is adopted. Next is ordinance 24-27, second reading, amending section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from R3 to PD 23006 Lawless Road. Chris?
Thank you, Mayor. This was another project that came through our senior planner, Ben Rhodes. It's a 23,006 Lawless Road. This was to rezone Phase 3 of the Lewis Ranch addition, consisting of 16.4 acres rezoned from R3, residential two-family, to PD plan development, creating single-family attached lots. Under the current zoning, duplex development is permitted by right. The rezone will not change the built environment and will only allow the individual units to be on separate properties, allowing the units to be privately owned. The Planning Commission recommended approval as presented. The board approved a resolution at the previous board meeting, which is contingent upon the rezoning. Staff is available for additional questions as needed, and staff does recommend approval.
Thank you, Chris. Directors, comments or questions? Mark?
At the last meeting, you discussed some issues with the PD and some of the solutions that you thought would be very helpful in it. So as a really quick question, and I didn't prepare you for, is could you tell, and I already know the answer, what the reason for a PD for this one?
For this one, it does have the need to have flexible standards to meet those requirements for the duplex lots to be on their own individual lots. This development also has a unique park with, I believe it's pickleball, that is proposed in it. So there's a recreational use associated with it. So that portion of the project would kind of be that give and take that would allow them to have that common space area for the neighborhood to enjoy. So there's that quality of life component that would be associated with it. That if this were to have gone to a future review with the planning commission, if that item were to pass, then that's the type of things that we would be looking for, is that give and take, the flexible standards, these smaller areas for the lots with the duplexes would be exchanged for that common space area with the quality of life improvement.
So for the public, in Mark's words, to me, from an R2 to a PD, which is what we do a lot here, the difference is their zero lot line, they can own their own half of a house or half a duplex, which is different than R2, and they're planning a pickleball park. So I'm just telling the public ahead of time, before we start talking about the changes we're going to do later, why we did it this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Anyone else? If not, is there anyone in our audience that would like to address ordinance 24-27? There is not. So, directors, do I have a motion to place ordinance 24-27 on its second reading, suspending the rules, reading by title only?
So move.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Long,
Yes?
Blair,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Wiles,
Yes.
Motion is approved. Alan?
Ordinance number 24-27, ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, city zoning map, rezoning from R3 to PD, property located at 23006 Lawless Road.
Thank you. Next is ordinance 24-28, first reading, vacation of a right-of-way, 1019 and 1021 East Main Street. Chris?
Thank you, Mayor. This project was reviewed by Kevin Moore, the city engineer. This, again, was at 1019 and 1021 East Main Street. It comes from a petition for the review of the vacation of a 50-foot east-west right-of-way. The requested to be permanently closed and not needed for the future East Main Street improvements. Right-of-way includes the entirety of the parking lot and a portion of the existing structure. This vacation request is essentially just a housekeeping measure to address those issues and bring the property into compliance. The Planning Commission does not review this type of item. Staff is available for additional questions as needed, and the applicant has requested all three readings for this item. The applicant has medical considerations and is in a time restraint. Staff recommends approval of this item with an emergency clause added at the request of the mayor.
Thank you, sir. Directors, comments or questions? Yes, Mark?
So I asked at the last meeting, I brought up a couple of topics about our future work that we're going to do and the railroad bridge. And would you like to tell me the answer? Tell me the answer again?
I'll go ahead and start. There's two parts to this. So the second part will be with Kevin Moore, the city engineer. The first part is that we are reserving some of the easements that go through this portion of vacated property to ensure that we have adequate drainage connections. We're going to reserve some of those type of easements that would be needed for that area, and that is written into the ordinance language. For the second part, I will deflect to Kevin Moore.
Kevin Moore, city engineer. So the amount being retained by the city meets our master street plan, and it does provide enough space for the proposed improvements to Main Street. So that 40 feet that we're retaining from center line meets all those needs for the city. As far as the railroad, their right-of-way is separate from the city's, so this area wouldn't have been used by the railroad anyway without their purchase of that property. So that's kind of a separate conversation between city right-of-way and railroad right-of-way, if that answers your question.
Thank you. One other comment, I certainly have sympathy for the family, but I am against reading all three in one meeting and emergency calls.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor,
Betsy?
I'd be okay with 2 readings, but I'm not wild about setting the precedent of 3 or doing everything in one night.
Anyone else?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Reed.
I know as a general rule, I think reading all 3 at once is not the direction we wish to go. But I do believe that we have a situation where, it's general housekeeping, but it's also part of a business that's been a part of Siloam Springs for many, many years. Had a wonderful example of business in our community. And I realize that an emergency or a need in someone else does not necessarily mean an emergency for us. But I would like to see if there's a way we could find to bring this quicker, but not necessarily set a precedent, because if we open the door to something that can cause difficulty later, I think we need to just not open it. But do we have family here or friends here that may be able to we don't need to know details, but just maybe give a quick comment or anything?
Yes, there is someone here. And I would like to make a comment on their behalf.
Okay, thank you.
I certainly understand the board's concern. I know that you've had several discussions about doing all 3 readings of an ordinance and the importance of not doing that, because you want the public to have an opportunity after that first reading to make comments. But this really is an unusual, special situation for this family. They have been in business in this town for over 40 years and have supported this city. And sometimes in life, things happen that we do not expect or know that's going to happen. But when it does, it puts us in a position to need to ask for a special consideration. And that is where we are with this family and this situation. So having said that, David? Yes.
Madam Mayor, I was
Yes.
just going to say, I have always been, for 30 years, against the 3 readings in a row, and most certainly against the emergency clause unless it is something that is actually something that the city is needing to push through for an emergency. I don't think tonight sets a precedent. I think that each time that this comes up is always at the whim, the decision, each individual case taken separately by this board. I don't believe that anyone in the future can say, well, look what you did over here. I think this is a personal decision, and we have our rules, and we have things that we abide by. But no matter what in life you face, there's always an exception, no matter what. I completely agree with everything you said, Mayor, and I don't mind making the motion that we put this on for all 3 readings, followed by the emergency clause.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to place the ordinance on first, second, and third reading, suspending the rules and reading by title only. Do I have, before we move into the vote, I would like to ask if there is anyone in the audience that would like to make a comment. Vanessa, would you like to say anything, or no? Okay, I understand that. So with that, then I will ask, then we have a motion and a second on the floor for the first, second, and third reading. Roll call.
Blair.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Long.
No?
Motion is approved for the first, second, and third readings. Alan?
Ordinance number 24, my glasses on, ordinance number 24-28, an ordinance vacating and abandoning a right-of-way at 1019 and 1021 East Main Street.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Mayor, I make a
Yes.
motion that we adopt ordinance 2428.
You'll have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt. Roll call.
Carroll.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Long.
No?
Blair.
Yes.
Motion is adopted. Do I have a motion to declare an emergency?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Allen.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Long.
No?
Blair.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion to declare the emergency is approved. Thank you all very much. Thank
Madam
you,
Mayor.
Chris. And Alan?
A family member's here, and I kind of know a little bit about the story, and just want them to know that they're in the city's thoughts and prayers, and we will be praying for them, and when they're ready to share, they will. But again, we appreciate them.
Thank you very much.
I will
Madam Mayor.
say that Mayor Judy is right. They have been a very good, supportive family business for 40 years. And that's not always something that's easy to come by nowadays. So I appreciate the Brenniger family very much.
Thank you, David. So with that, we will move to ordinance 24-29, first reading, amending section 86-6 of the City Municipal Code, notice requirements, street and alley closures. Phil?
Thank you, Mayor. Phil Stokes, Electric Director. Basically, what this ordinance deals with is the time that we need to notify the appropriate personnel when we need to close a road. Currently, it can take up to 7 days before we can get a road closed because we have to take it to the newspaper and the television. And so what we've done here is we'll notify the city administrator 72 hours before we need to close the road, and then he can notify the appropriate personnel, such as your different types of media that's available now to have the road closed, such as Facebook, Twitter, whatever, along with the newspaper. And so that's our request and available for any questions.
Thank you, sir. Directors, comments or questions? There being none, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address ordinance 24-29? There is not. So directors, do I have a motion to place ordinance 24-29 on its first reading, suspending the rules, reading by title only?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Allen.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Alan?
Ordinance number 24-29, ordinance amending section 86-6, cutting alteration and repair of streets and alleys of the municipal code with respect to notice requirements.
Thank you, sir. Next are the resolutions. We have one, Resolution 32-24, Planning Commission Subcommittee, Planned Development Review. Chris?
Thank you, Mayor. This is my project. So, the request for this is to approve the resolution to establish a subcommittee of the Planning Commission. The purpose is to authorize, this would authorize a Planned Development Review Committee, PDRC, to preview applications submitted by applicants to verify they meet the intent of the PD zoning district prior to the Planning Commission meeting. This provides review criteria set by this Board of Directors for additional review applications to the Planned Development Zoning District, PD. This would clearly define what qualifies and disqualifies an application and what action the PDRC can and cannot take upon the application. The committee is not reviewing the rezone itself. It is instead, they are reviewing the application to submit the rezone request to the Planning Commission. This meets recent board comments that additional eyes on projects, to provide additional eyes on projects while providing dedicated time for this subcommittee to better facilitate communications between applicants and the Planning Commission subcommittee. Staff does recommend approval, and I'm available for any additional questions.
Thank you, sir. Directors? Mark?
So I commented earlier, and I just want to say that we're turning this to the Planning and Zoning Commission based on, there have been a lot of apparent, I'm not saying it's true, that it looks like they're trying to get around certain restrictions in an R2 or whatever the residential option is. And PD has some very stringent things that need to be requested. So I'm just giving a bad example that you could say you were going to build a park, and really it just would be, you could play soccer in a drainage ditch if it wasn't raining. And so this is giving the planning and zoning a much bigger stick, I would say, to where they can let people know from the beginning, no, that's not what the intent of this was. So I'm just clarifying for the public.
Thank you, Mark. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, David.
I'm not comfortable with this. I think this is a huge step. First that we've seen it was in this board packet. First, the public has seen it was in this board packet. When the last time we established a separate commission or subcommittee was the Utility Commission, and it was discussed and talked about and bandied about amongst the board and the public and the administrator for a very long time, months before it was actually set up. And only because this is such a huge step and something that I don't think should be taken lightly, I would like to table this actually for 2 meetings to give enough time for the public to give input. I'd like to table it to the second September meeting.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Just as city administrator, I'll let you know, if you table this, we have a very full schedule coming in the month of September. This will not help us at all finding ways, because this resolution, what's happening is the builders have found end arounds to take, and we have certain, and Chris can probably speak better on this, where they have zones or square footage, and they're finding ways to build, or possibly, let's just say, use that square footage differently. And again, this has been a request from the board for us to look into this probably for the past 3 to 4 months. And again, so I respect whatever you want to do. I'm just letting you know there's things on our schedule that's coming that they're going to continue to use those end arounds if we put this off.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Mindy.
Hate to put anybody on the spot, but we've got 2 people from the Planning Commission here. Could we hear their thoughts on this subcommittee?
Absolutely.
Nothing like being put on the spot.
Katie?
Well, I will just state that I'll change my motion to 1 meeting.
Okay.
I want to table it to only 1 meeting.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, David. Katie Renard, 702 East Delaware, Siloam Springs, Arkansas. I am a member of the Planning Commission. We try very hard before things come before us to have checked into everything and made sure that before anything is recommended to the board that we've looked at it seriously. Many of us work hard on that. However, what I think we're talking about is we've already agreed and you've already approved whatever's going to be done. But sometimes within that, there's one lot that's a little smaller, there's something that's open to change, there's a size difference in things. And if there was a pre-committee to look deeper into all of that, the feeling is maybe before it came to the Planning Commission, we could have more stringent recommendations. That's how I understood it. So, be better than me, come on.
Kevin?
No pressure.
Kevin Williams, 2604 Courtney Circle, also a member of the Planning Commission. The way I view this committee is more of a detailed look at some of the changes before changing from R2 to PD. There have been a lot of things, and there's things I am seeing now that could have benefited greatly from this committee, where builders are just saying, it seems like they're saying, I can just get more stuff on here if we get this changed to PD. I think if we had this committee where we could sit down, discuss it with them, and be able to say, I understand what you're wanting to do, but that is really not the goal of PD. And we could discuss options, maybe instead of as many pieces of property, maybe more green space, because I have seen things come through the Planning Commission that our hands were kind of tied. They were meeting all the requirements, and basically we have to approve it because legally they have met all the requirements. But if we had this committee prior to that, we could have said things like, you know, we believe there should be more green space before you go to this point, and not 2 feet of grass in front of the house being a yard and then being told, well, that's all the room we have. Well, if you took out 1 row of buildings and spread everything out, it gives more green space, more quality of life, and a better living environment, where this committee could review things like that as opposed to just bringing it before the board, the staff doing their job and saying, yes, it meets all the requirements as they set, and not putting as much pressure on them to question a person's reasons behind doing things, where the committee could have more of a discussion as not a staff member. And I just think the committee could come to better solutions with builders on a better level than everything just being black and white on paper, but to have a discussion and come up with solutions for those things.
Kevin, is there a reason that those things can't be done now? Either by staff or by the Planning Commission?
I don't know that there's not a reason. I think sometimes the atmosphere isn't conducive to it. When you have somebody that we get to talk to them for the first time when they step up here.
Right.
And ask them, you know, the questions we've thought of, this, and this. And they answer, well, it's because of this and because of this, and they've met all those requirements, then it's kind of, you're just stuck where you are. And I know you guys have a little more leniency to say, nope, we're not doing that. But we don't on the Planning Commission. And I just think it gives more of an atmosphere of discussion with the builder and their engineer or whoever else can come together and sit down for that hour or whatever the meeting's set at and look closer at why do you want a PD zone? And if they can't give a reason other than, well, we can fit 25% more buildings on this if it's PD than we can if it's not, that's not a good reason.
So you're saying this would be more of an informal preceding the Planning Commission meeting? It would be an informal sit down at a table and the committee meet with the developer to discuss the plan?
That's the way I view it.
Before it comes to the Planning Commission to vote?
Yes.
It would be like we're having pre-agenda meeting, you guys would have a
Kind of, yes.
committee, but it would be more of an informal setting of discussion.
Discussion with the
Yeah.
builders.
But if you guys recommend things, like, why can't you just said, well, why can't you take out this row of building? You can't hold them to it, right? You can just recommend. You can just say, well, we see this going forward better if you do this.
We don't have to put it forward as the committee. We can,
Oh, the committee
from
can
what I
actually.
understand, we can
Okay.
say until you fix some of these things, you probably could answer that better.
So in the wording of the resolution, it does give some additional authority to the subcommittee. But one of the things that we looked at, we took advice from several of the directors. A lot of this is already codified. I could have done a lot of this in policy from a staff level. Staff could have done some of this, but we wanted the intent and the clarity to come from the board. So the intent was to provide the wordings through a resolution to establish this subcommittee so that this is an item that's coming from the board to say, this is what we meant whenever we were talking about PDs. This also allows the planning commission would have a set list of things they can consider. And it says essentially it says when the board of directors adopted PD, this is what we intended. This is what we're going to allow this subcommittee to review and look at. For example, parkland dedication. Parkland dedication right now is relatively vague. But I think that the intent of this board, and this is just my view of it, was to have some sort of a quality of life. When you're talking about parkland dedication, to have flexible zoning standards within a PD, if we're talking about that parkland dedication, we're talking about if you're having smaller yards, then where are you going to make up for that? So maybe a common park space that they could enjoy within that subdivision or in that area. This kind of clarifies that from the board, that it was the board's intent to have those specific considerations. And then it states that the subcommittee could say, hey, it doesn't meet these requirements. Instead of saying, let's move this forward and maybe it gets felled by the board, we say, let's slow this process down. So we want to slow the process down, take a look at it, and make sure that it meets that criteria, that it's going to have those quality of life standards, that it's going to meet that intent of the board. And if it does need to slow down, instead of taking it all the way to the board and failing it, or taking it all the way to the planning commission and failing it, then we say, hey, let's slow down. Let's make these changes so it would potentially meet these requirements, and then bring it back to us, and we're happy to work with you. So they have the ability to table. So if they were to add an item that is missing from that component, it can actually speed the process up, because I don't think any applicant likes going through all the way through a process and then find out that it doesn't meet a certain criteria, and then it gets denied. Plus, it improves those subdivisions that are PD to allow those quality of life elements to be beneficial to the residents. So certain types of quality of life are going to be given. If it's a ditch that's for drainage, obviously there's going to be a drainage ditch there. It'll probably remain a drainage ditch in some variation through that project. But to dedicate a drainage ditch and call it a park, it's a little bit disingenuous. So to move forward, we would like to be able to say, this is not what we meant when we were talking about the parkland dedication. These were already going to be dedicated drainage easements. Let's talk about parkland dedication, the quality of life components. It also allows us to say, hey, these lots over here are not impacted by this at all. So why are we making these lots smaller and trying to fit in as many lots on one part of our development that's not impacted by the unique hardship on the opposite side? We're trying to make it where we slow down that process, sit some of the planning commissioners down with the actual applicant and talk through those things and see if we can get these things improved.
Madam,
Oh, go ahead.
thank you.
Betsy will come to you, and then back to you, Mark.
So help me understand, because Kevin, you had said that when it comes to the planning committee, if they meet the requirements, you have to pass it through. So if they come to the subcommittee, isn't it the same deal? They have to pass it through?
So this is it's a little bit unique whenever you talk about plan development. So the way I interpret the PD requirements right now may be different than the next director, maybe, and I'm sure it was different than the last director. Each staff member that reviews it's going to review it a little bit differently. This resolution will establish some criteria set by by the board that says, let's look at this. Let's look at these specific items. It drops those down into that list, and it says, this is the criteria to accept the application for consideration.
So does that mean that criteria will now apply to the planning commission also?
It would apply to the application acceptance. After they get to the planning commission, at that point, it should meet the general requirements of the code. So it's a rezone, so this board is not obligated to accept a rezone, and I would deflect to legal on that, but I believe that that's one of this board's greatest authorities per se. So a board is not, it's not like development where you have case law that states that you are required to accept it if it meets ABC. But what it does do is it gives you a better chance of capturing the intent of the original PD zoning code as it was presented and as it was is defined in code, if that makes sense.
Chris, to piggyback off what Director Blair's saying, with ordinance 2427 that passed tonight from R3 to PD for 88 homes, would this resolution, in your opinion, made a difference on how those lot sizes were used?
That one would likely, since they were providing the, I just pulled it up on the computer in front of me. That one would likely, we would take a lot of consideration into those quality of life features in our staff recommendation. It would still go to the committee. This doesn't add to the timeline. It would fall within the existing timeline. It would come through and meet. They would come through and meet with the PD. They would discuss with the PDRC, excuse me. They would discuss their parkland dedication with the PDRC and why they're looking at narrowing the lots and see if that's a good handoff on that flexible zoning standard. And I would also see if Ben had anything additional to say as our senior planner.
Yeah, Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner. Very good discussion about this. I just want to say that. But I think we would probably take a deeper dive, if you will. And one other thing to keep in mind, that PDRC is I think of it as a gatekeeper. So, the Planning Commission, they're going to make a recommendation on the actual zoning application. PDRC is the gatekeeper of the application. So, when we get applications turned in, they're immediately going through our review process, and they get comments, and then it gets to Planning Commission with a recommendation, and then they vote based off of that recommendation in the staff report. There isn't really a process to really evaluate the application itself before they even begin the review. And so that's sort of what this is doing. It allows us to take a breath a little bit, look at deep dive. What's the intent of PD? The committee would be really well versed in that and would look at these applications and work with the developer and say, well, why don't you tweak a few things here? And that would really create a better quality application that, just to go off of the administrator's comment, developers wouldn't use PD as a crutch or a tool to just get around our current zoning in order to achieve higher densities as their ultimate goal. So this is going to create a little bit more of a better outcomes, for planned developments and quality of life.
So the people on the committee would understand the intent of this and what we're trying to do and the type of city we're trying to create, and not just keep going down the road we've been going. Is that fair to say?
I think one of the things that we would look at doing is actually, once we establish the committee, which state statute states that the city administrator appoints people to boards, committees, and commissions, and then it has to be approved by the board. So after that happens, then we would establish likely have our first meeting, and we would spend some time discussing the actual resolution as it was approved, so be it if it is approved by the board, when we would spend some time reviewing what the board's goal was. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mark?
So I have two things. This is the first I've heard that planning and zoning, if it fits the legal requirements, they have to pass it. We're not required to pass it.
Sure.
Why are they?
If it's, whenever you have a large-scale development or a preliminary plat in the state of Arkansas, Richardson v. the City of Little Rock Planning Commission is case law that states that you are obliged to follow your ordinance if it meets the requirements of the ordinance.
The planning and zoning is required, see, so they're not the gatekeeper that I thought they were. If they don't have anything illegal in their plan, then they're just rubber stamping what their engineers bring in here.
That's, if it meets the requirements of a zoning jurisdiction, then they're obliged to follow the city ordinance that was approved by the Board of Directors.
I'd like to see that case law.
Sure.
My second thing, David, I'm certainly going to second your motion to table it. Could you tell me, I don't guess I really understand what it is you're worried about, that makes you nervous?
I will be glad to. My concern is that this is a very big step, that we are setting up another commission or committee, even though it's a subcommittee of the Planning Commission. It is a committee that will have authority. We gave the Utility Commission authority. We have given every commission, parks, airport, whoever, whatever, they all have authority. And to establish a new commission that, as has been explained, they will meet with developers, pre-meet, basically, before the actual decisive meeting will be done at the Planning Commission. I think it is too big of a step to just vote on this when we just received, and I mean, you could look at it, this is not a one-page easily, boom. This is a very detailed, instructive, and as Chris says, it's to define the intent. Well, the intent can be different from one director to another director. And I'm saying city director, the director of department head. So the intent can be different over time. And I'll just be blunt. I saw the previous city administrator take board authority away from this board over time because the board members were, almost all of them knew and did not know that it was state law. I don't want to see the Planning Commission not have the authority that they're supposed to have because we're going to have a subcommittee. I just want this board to fully be aware of what we're voting on, every detail of it. And I want the public to also be aware, because the first time they've seen it was when it went to the board packet. So I'm not saying I'm against this in any way. I want us to be clear about it and you know, City Administrator Gilbert has said this has been involved with several board members. It's not been involved with all the board members. So there may be something that somebody who wasn't involved from the beginning with this may say, well, maybe this ought to be changed to this. I don't know. I'm just saying we need to make sure that everybody, including the public's on the same page, because this is a very big step.
Thank you, David. And Mark, did you make a second? Did you?
I would like to say that I think that anytime a director needs more time, we should generally almost always give it to them. So I'll make that second.
So we have a motion and a second on the floor to table this till the first meeting in September. Roll call.
Madam Mayor,
We have to take action on the motion.
okay, can you clarify, if we vote yes, that means we table? If we vote no, does it mean this goes away, or tell me what that means?
If you vote no, it means we are not tabling it, and then we will have a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Thank you, yes. Roll call?
Hunt.
So yes to tabling?
Yes. If you vote yes, you're tabling.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Long.
Yes?
Blair.
Yes.
Carol.
No.
Allen.
Yes.
Motion to table till the first meeting in September is approved. Thank you, Chris. With that, we will move to our staff reports. That is you, Alan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Had some expenditures to report in excess of $30,000. The first one is $39,464 for Sauber MFG Company Pole Trailer Electric Department. And the second one is per resolution, $128,625 for Techline and Company Inc., 7500 MCM primary wire for the electric department. And just to give you a kind of a bit of what's going on with the RAISE grant, everything is going very well at this time. The only holdup we're having right now to bring the grant to the board for approval or acceptance is we're waiting on the paperwork from the federal government. And hopefully we will see that. I thought it might be in 4 weeks, but it's just taking some time, and we're just waiting on, I think, some information from RDOT and to get to the federal government. Hopefully we'll get that too. But everything is going very well with it. It's just taking time, and we're just waiting on paperwork. I talked to Kevin briefly today, if we can get everything basically to the board, and if they accept the grant, we're hoping September, October to start breaking ground of next year. That's kind of the timeline right now with plans, and I just want to give you a quick update on the grant. Second thing is Park and Recreations brought back the Latin Dance Series last Friday. These classes will be held weekly at 401 West University Street through September 20th, leading up to the third annual Hispanic Heritage Festival scheduled for September 21st at Memorial Park. And then really proud of the police department. Police Department and Parks and Rec Department hosted the Aloha Summer Dive-In movie event, where over 300 people enjoyed hot dogs, flowered lace, sunglasses, and fun at the pool while watching the movie Lilo and Stitch. So thank you for the police department volunteers, wore their brightest Hawaiian shirts. So I'm hoping I will find a picture of that, because there was a bunch of them. And then the inaugural Siloam Springs Equipment Rodeo. It will be our very first one, and is scheduled for October 19th at Lazy Boy Softball Fields. The Equipment Rodeo brings together the best heavy equipment operators in the region to compete head-to-head in a variety of skilled-based challenges. And Mayor, I'm going to turn it back over to you. That's my report.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that very much. So that moves us to the director's reports. First, I would like to say thank you to everyone that was here tonight, and to the directors for allowing this family to move forward with what they need to do. So like I said, I respect you all very much, and I know that you take your decisions very seriously, so I appreciate your consideration on their behalf. And with that, I will ask for us to begin with Mindy, and David, we will end with you.
Okay. So we've seen lots of kids around and lots of traffic around with the start of school. Congratulations for everybody having a successful start. And we need to just keep watching out for those kiddos. JBU actually starts on Monday. School starts on Monday. I think students are coming in this weekend, so we'll have another 1,000 or so students or residents in town for the next 9 months or so. Since Betsy brought up the sound working, I actually got a text as well about 640 from someone saying that it was working for them. So I don't know if there may be issues. I know you said that you thought there was an issue, but it seems like sometimes it's working at some places and sometimes it's not at some. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. So there may be things going on in people's homes as well. And the last thing, this is a bit difficult right now, the tabling of motions. I understand, we've talked a lot about showing respect to other board members. If a board member needs more time to table a motion, then we need to offer that. And there have been times that I have said no. More recently, I've said yes to the tabling because I do understand that I do want to show respect for my fellow board members. But I also want to show respect for the citizens who are waiting for us to make decisions. And tonight, I was willing to go along with the table because it is a little bit more of an in-house thing. If I don't always table going forward, please know it's not a sign of disrespect for you as board members. I just feel like we have held up decisions that we need to make on behalf of citizens sometimes in tabling. So I'm just going to put that out there, and I respect your opinions. We may have to agree to disagree on this one sometimes, but I just want to put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy. Ken?
I want to just offer condolences to the Stacks family for their loss over the weekend. Just let them know that we were thinking of them, praying for them. Debbie was a very big part of this community. One of the faces for the bank, and just a joy to deal with. And that loss will be felt deeply within the community. And just let them know that we were thinking of them. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ken. Betsy?
I wanted to say thank you to our awesome electric department. When I moved to Kansas City, my first winter below freezing, I was without power for 9 days and couldn't leave. Our electric department's awesome. When my power went out a couple nights ago, because I think the lightning was right over the house, it was on in an hour and a half. And it was at Camp Siloam, in a difficult place to get to, and it was a bad lightning strike. And still, they get out of bed, they get dressed the middle of the night, and they get it back on. I've said it before, I've never lived anywhere with such amazing service, and we are so lucky to have them. In fact, part of me was like, an hour and a half? That's really long for them. But they do a great job, and it was a very difficult job on that one. So thank you to the electric company, as always. The Adult Development Center, they need support. As I've talked about before, it's a place for people to come work. There are businesses around town that help provide them jobs. So if you think that there's work that they can do for you, that would be great. They're always looking for more work. They do shredding. They're cheaper than anybody else. They'll do it for businesses. They'll do it for citizens. They've got a wide range of things they do there. And then also, if they don't have work, most of them still show up at the center because that's their socialization and that's their life. And they play games and do puzzles and art and things like that. So they're always in need of art supplies, new games, things like that. If anybody has anything they want to donate, of course, monetary donations are always appreciated. So they're at 500 North Country Club Road, just down from the golf course. And there's always somebody there who can take things from 8 to 2. So that's the Adult Development Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. They really do need our support. They really do. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. Reed?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a question on the resolution that we passed this evening. Did we give public input on that?
Actually, we had the motion to table and the second before that, and we acted upon that.
Okay.
Yeah. Once it's on the floor, my understanding is that we have to take action on that motion and second.
Okay. Well, I'll just be a little more aggressive on wanting
Sure.
to make an opinion then.
Absolutely.
Okay. I want to honor the family tonight with Carrie's, or the Brenninger family. I appreciate what they have done over the past many decades, even before I moved here, and I think I've been here a good while, but I can't compare to 40 years. Friday, we have our fourth Friday here in town. If you haven't been to one, I would encourage you to. They're just a lot of fun. It's time you're going to see people of all ages, cultures, and backgrounds, and just a time to really get to be a part of our community and to see where we shine. And you can see why people come to Siloam Springs and why it's a good place to be. That's all, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mark, nothing tonight? David? Now, David, that does not mean you have extra time.
Well, this is like the third or fourth meeting. It's like nothing for me. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also want to give my thoughts and prayers for Vanessa and Carrie Brenninger. And we had children that grew up together, and they're a great family. And I appreciate her being here tonight in case there were any questions. But no, we're rooting for you. Thank you for being here. I want to say thanks to Lieutenant Osborne, and he brought his family tonight. He has been a very valuable officer, associate of our fire department. Was out there many times when my dad fell. Often thought he was bleeding, but he was usually sitting on a cherry pie. It was something that Lieutenant Osborne just immediately was wanting to take care of Mr. Pete, and I appreciate it. Congrats to a young man that I've known since he was a kid, Jordan Jackson, for promotion to deputy chief. I also wanted to give my condolences to Debbie Stack's family. I've known her at least probably back to high school, and she's been a long-term banking associate. Anyone in banking has known Debbie, and quite a shock to lose her, and my thoughts and prayers for the family. And my thoughts and prayers for Lisa Rissler's mother-in-law. John Rissler's mother passed away. And want them to know that we are all thinking of them. And then lastly, I was just going to say, talking about local businesses that have been around a long time, the Postal Express is going to be celebrating 20 years. I think it's next week. And it's been through a few owners, and my friend Louis and Debbie McCormick started it long ago, and it's been a great service to the city. And I didn't know they'd been there 20 years, but I took some packages in, and she saw my name. She goes, "I know who you are." And she was very nice and cordial, and I appreciated her pointing out that they had been here 20 years. And so I think we need to celebrate when businesses have hit decade marks. It's very important. So congratulations to them. And Madam Mayor, I will make a motion, we adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are adjourned.